Michelle, I wondered if, focusing a little at the moment on the domestic side and the domestic issues, what would you say are the issues that are likely to separate the candidates and that will actually mean that people actually make the choice which is beyond simply their personalities? Are there key issues that
well,
are going to...
Frankly, I would say they were basically consensual. They simply, there is a proliferation of candidates, but by and large they're sort of stealing each other's clothes. So frankly, we don't know what they are and what they represent. This is the confusion that is causing us and causing the people to not know where to go and what to do. This kind of political cross-dressing is something that our newspapers do not help us identify, because they are, as I say, pro-Zionist in their approach, and therefore do not give us a balanced view of what each candidate actually represents, or exposing the fact that they don't represent anything other than a variation on the same consensual program. And it really does come back to the foreign policy, because it is the foreign policy that's dictating these terms. But to come back to our friend George, because we were discussing it before, and to answer your question really, because the French concepts of left and right are especially confused at the present. More than most European countries outside Scandinavia, the French resisted the democratic, and I put that in quotes, drift towards a liberalized market economy, or what they openly deride as the Anglo-Saxon model, which is supposed to be the American-British, but actually that is really the pro-Zionist New World Order. So if we wanted to describe what that New World Order was, Le Pen's success, as far as I can see, is in telling us that when offered a real choice, and we aren't offered a real choice, that is my pet complaint, large numbers of voters wholeheartedly reject the so-called modern, quotes, democratic consensus of an American-led New World Order. I believe that if we had the opportunity, if people had the opportunity, certainly in this country there is no party that represents our own interests. They are those pro-Zionist interests. And very often you hear, when I say this to Americans, they generally say, our voters are not interested in foreign policy. But I say, if you link foreign policy to the yellow, orange, green terrorist thing which people are made aware of, then you would certainly see people taking an interest in the fact that foreign policy affects their domestic policy. How much money are they spending on their own interests, as opposed to sending billions to, for example, Israel's interests, or other interests in these wars for which we have not benefited and have brought shame on us, that money has not been spent on our economic interests.
Sarkozy, the lead candidate, has until very recently been the interior minister for France, with responsibility for two issues that are linked to the sorts of issues you're talking about. Immigration and counter-terrorist issues. Do you see that as influencing French public opinion in favour or against Sarkozy's chances of being
well,
elected?
I could only do the best I can do for you is to quote Le Pen, because Le Pen has condemned Sarkozy as a candidate because he's closest to what he regards as the Zionist neocon worldview, which is what I'm talking about. And to quote him, and it's very recent, he's just recently said this, in matters of foreign policy, the Atlanticism of Mr. Sarkozy, which he does not trouble to hide, that's because he openly parades his desire to subject France even more to the policies of the Bush administration, his desire, to continue quoting him, his desire to subject France even more to the arbitrary will of the European Union, since he is committed to adopting a European constitutional treaty, which is rejected by popular referendum 2 years ago, his break with traditional French diplomacy, with its respect for the principles of international law, including his unconstitutional support for Israel, constitutes a danger on which French voters are called to reflect. But they're only called to reflect by Le Pen, and we do not get this in our newspapers. This is a very interesting point which we rarely hear. And he goes on in another part of that interview. To quote Le Pen, he says, "The Americans reproach Iran for its uranium enrichment program, just as they reproached Saddam Hussein for holding prohibited weapons. It is a question of a pretext, like the affair of the detention of the British sailors," which we are to see as sailors, not Marines, who, as you know, deliberately provoked Iran. The Anglo-Americans are trying to find, at any price, a pretext to attack Iran, to drag it into violence and push it into regression. He continues, "I don't see on what basis one can forbid Iran to carry on this program, while at the same time tolerating Israel, Pakistan and India doing the same." And this is how he relates the issues to what is causing Britain and America, and very likely France, to be hated by the common sense of the voters if they were presented with the right opportunities, which, as far as I can see, Le Pen identifies, and only he identifies.
Thank you.